and good to have you with us on this edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, tonight we are going to start with a focus on the national capital, where there are 5 big stories that are lined up over the next 2 hours. First up, I want to talk about this latest fight that is now brewing between the Delhi government, the Aam Aadmi Party, as well as the centre. Now, the fight actually began with the AAP raising questions about testing data, saying there is a mismatch in the data and we are suspicious of the number of cases that are being reported as per ICMR, especially from one hospital, which is the RML Hospital. Now, as per the Delhi government, they said 95% positive results were reported in a day, that there was a delay in the test results. Test results were being given 24 to 48 hours later. Results were not being shared with us. And then when we retested these same samples, within the next 24 hours, the results were different, that almost 40% of those actually turned out to be negative, thereby insinuating that there is some kind of conspiracy here, something is going wrong, and that needs to be investigated. Now, viewers, there are many aspects to how testing really works. There are rules and regulations as to when you should be testing, what kind of testing kit should you be using, and when do you do your retest. The results can vary. The big question that I am asking tonight is this simply politics? Is a mismatch being used to accuse each other, play a blame game as cities like Mumbai and Delhi tackle high number of coronavirus cases? And is that what we really want? Then I'm also going to talk about, can we call this an intentional conspiracy? Or is there a problem with the testing procedure, the way it's followed, interpreted, and it is being read? Which is why tonight, apart from just politicians on this panel, we also have experts who will help us understand this, and maybe therein lies the solution to this entire battle. Let's say good evening to those who are joining us right now. I've got Dr. Velumani, Chairman and MD for Thyrocare Technologies, Dr. Rakesh Mishra, Director for Centre for Cellular and Molecular Biology, which is the CCMB in Hyderabad, Harish Khurana of the BJP, and Ajay Kumar, spokesperson for the Aam Aadmi Party. Ajay Kumar, let's begin with you. Why is the Delhi government of the view that there is something malified here? Okay, I'm going to go across to Ajay Kumar in just a bit and ask him that question. But to the point that I was raising about, the testing procedure and the timelines, let me actually ask Dr. Velumani a question on that. Dr. Velumani, often we've seen people who are tested and then 5 days later retested, the results have been different. In this case, we've tried to put the timeline together between what the different parties are claiming. And it seems that between the first test and the second, there would have been at least a difference of 72 hours. Now, can a test result genuinely vary within that time?
Actually, there has been a lot of controversies between lab results not matching, private labs not matching with government lab, A lab doesn't match with B lab. Let me make one thing very clear. Every patient, when he becomes positive first, previous day he was negative. All patients who are positive today, tomorrow have to become negative. So the virus comes, the virus goes. If you have taken it a day or two before and you take a day or two after, the results certainly will not match. So here, first and foremost, multiple brands are used in the country. I don't know why we need so many brands, number one. Number two, all their reliabilities are not equally same. Number three, A lab and B lab, if they are not using the same kind of branded kits, there will be some difference. So if at all you want to verify for the quality of a lab, the sample which was collected earlier only can be retested and can be proved. We are sending our samples to NIV laboratory and they are giving a confirmation that the results in the same tube is the same what you have reported. This is the only way to check the quality. You can't take one more sample again from the same patient and send it to one more lab and then tell quality is a problem. That is number one. Number two, reporting cannot be done in 24 hours until the laboratory works 24/7. So I am unfortunately seeing in the country there are some labs which are not even reporting even after 4 days. So they need to be reprimanded. But in my opinion, 90% of the laboratories are reporting in less than 24 hours. 99% of the laboratories are reporting good quality.
Okay, I understand that. Let me also actually bring in Dr. Mishra on that aspect. Dr. Mishra, can you also help us understand the variations that are happening? If there is a difference in result done within a test done within 72 hours again, what could possibly be the reasons?
There can be multiple reasons, as you just heard, that if test is done by different technician, that will bring a variation. Don't forget that you are doing very sophisticated tests. You are taking the sample, you are isolating the RNA, which is very unstable molecule in terms of molecular biology, and then you are converting that RNA into DNA. Then you are amplifying that DNA millions and millions of times so that it becomes visible to the machine, and you are checking a specific piece of DNA using fluorescence methods. So it's a pretty complicated thing, and anywhere if you make small errors, results can be different. And there is something called CT value, which is when there is a CT value is lower, that means the signal is strong, that means there is more virus, and CT value is high, the virus will be less. So when CT value starts to go 30, 40, and or even more, then signal becomes dicey. So one time it may become 40 is positive, one time becomes 41 is negative. So if you are at the borderline, which means that the titer of the virus is low in the patient, there are chances that with the same kit you may find a different result another day. And as our previous speaker mentioned, if you use different kit, so different kits use different pieces of this virus for amplification and testing. So if virus is broken pieces, when you have collected many are broken pieces, and some of the pieces in more in quantity, some is less in quantity, so that different kit can show variation. And it is general understanding that whatever kit it is, even gold standard kits have efficiency of up to 80% or so, which means top 20% of the cases which we are likely to miss often because the virus titer is very low. After all, everything has a limit of detection. Below certain number, you will not able to detect unless you use a completely different kind of method. So there is a scientific scope for variation in the results from day to day basis. Of course, that is one thing when I'm saying nothing is changing, but things can change, that virus titer can go different in the patient on a different day because immune system is fighting. If it is fighting, maybe titer will go down, and the next day it became below the limit of detection and you are seeing something negative, and vice versa. So these things are possible, and there are ways of verifying them.
Okay, so let me then go across to Ajay Kumar, spokesperson for the Aam Aadmi Party. Mr. Ajay Kumar, here are two experts, who are telling us that there could be many reasons and scientifically explainable reasons for variation in test results. Then why is it that the Delhi government believes that there is some conspiracy or malified intention here?
No, Tanvi, I don't think we are saying there is a conspiracy or a malified intention. What we are saying is that the tests are taking undue delays, they are not coming on time, and that's a fact. We've got, what Mr. Satyendra Jain has also said that 230 came after 3 days, 280 came after 4 days. So, first question is the delay in the results being sent to us is an issue which is very clear. These are based on facts. The second issue is that when we test, and those tests which are done, retest is also by the recommendation of the doctors. We are finding that the discrepancy is around 44% or 50%. Now, there may be a very good reason to explain why it is not why it has happened. But now I wanted to ask you a simple question. Let's imagine that if all things are equal, and the RML is actually making a mistake, right? That means we are sending double the number of people saying they've got COVID and they don't have it. So that's a cause of concern. That's the perspective we are coming from. So if there is any issue and we have flagged it, then why doesn't the RML hospital, instead of saying that, look, we are telling you that all our results are 100% right, it's impossible, because in your TV show, I heard Dr. Mishra and the others speaking on the opportunities where the test can go wrong. Now, if there is such a huge opportunity for the results being wrong, then isn't it mandatory to make sure that we ensure that the process and the protocol is robustly followed and ensure that this doesn't happen? Because if there's a chance of the data being wrong, because of so many things, maybe the sample collection of virus was not enough, whether the sample was not corrected properly, whether it is it. But the fact is that then you are condemning all these people, right? So our thing is, whenever we make a mistake in any of the Delhi government hospitals, we say that, listen, we understand this, we will try to fix it, please give your complaint. In the case of RML, it would have been nice if they would said, listen, we'll have a look at it. You've got this, let us sit with your test, the doctors with the lab which has done your testing of these samples, let us sit together and look at the data, because that's how medicine works. I mean, I've done my medicine myself, so I understand that. I mean, I look at it from a physician's perspective that, look, how can we be so rigid on what we believe is right or wrong? We need to find out the truth, right? And I mean, the doctors.
Okay, but how are you so sure that the problem is then only with the RML cases? So I want to understand this, Dr. Ajay Kumar. How is your party and government so sure that the problem then is only with the RML hospital, and how did you know to retest only those 30 specific cases?
No, the first question, we don't know whether so the first question, Tanvi, is we are saying that this is what has happened. Okay. And we are saying it because these people we get it retested and find out that we took a sample size of 30. Now, we could have taken a sample size of 10,000 also. I mean, whatever came from whichever patients came, we could have done that also. But that doesn't make sense, because whenever you do a sample, you want to find out whether there's a trend. You take a sample. 30 is a reasonably large enough sample size for 2,000 or 3,000 patients. The sample size should normally be around 3%, if I remember the statistics, statistical requirement in numbers. So we took 30 samples and just did a random test just to see where it is going. But my question, there are two questions to it. One is the time issue. If the time is getting delayed, if the private labs and other labs and our hospital labs are able to give it in 24 to 48 hours window, then why are we seeing a large number of samples coming after 4 days, 5 days, 7 days, 9 days? Those are question number one. Second issue is our testing method also, you want to challenge it, you're totally legitimate in challenging it. But then the method would have been, listen, we have found this, these are the delays, and and the testing, why don't we sit together and resolve it? But we've been in touch, we've been in discussion with RML.
Okay,
and
let me also...
send it on time. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, let me also bring in Harish Khurana and get a response from him. He's heard out everybody here on the panel. Mr. Khurana, what do you have to say about this controversy?
Tanvi, as far as RML controversy is concerned, RML already been given a statement that the Delhi government has collected 7 to 14 days after 14 days sample. And what Raghav Chadda, the Aam Aadmi Party leader, has on record said, the sample was collected next day. So the lies has already been started. The question is not about RML sample is good, bad, wrong, right. I'm not saying about this. The question is much bigger. Today, the Delhi government has issued an order in which they have stated they have stopped 7 private labs to conduct testing. Why they have done this? Second, the most important, which is very dangerous also, they have passed an order in which they have stated if you are a corona patient and your relative if you are a relative of a corona patient and you have not been symptoms, you have not been symptoms of corona, your test cannot be done. I mean, if your test is not been done, how are you sure about that he's a corona patient or not? If by chance, matter of chance, you have been corona positive and you're meeting 20 more people. I mean, what are you saying? What are you doing? The question is much bigger now. I mean, hiding your failures, you have stopped 7 labs. And labs like what? Sir,
No,
Gangaram
no,
Hospital.
Mr. Khurana,
City X-ray.
Mr. Khurana, let's not make tall rhetorical claims here which have no which I will not be able to substantiate. Now, on what basis are you saying that there is some kind of mollified from the government to suppress the numbers?
I'll show you the order. This is an order which they have stated that if you are a corona patient and if you are related to a corona patient, your test cannot be done if you have not a symptom and if you're below 60 years of age. What kind of order they have passed? I mean, this is surprising.
Tanvi,
And what I'm saying right now, if they
But
have stopped
that's
private labs,
but that's
also this is official. I'm not as a party spokesman. I'm not saying this. It's officially they have stated. It's on the website. They have shut down 9 testing labs.
first question. Tanvi, can I answer that?
unless and until you are a high risk contact, unless and until you are a high risk contact, immediate contact of a COVID patient, the test won't happen. This is what is being followed across the country. Testing is only being done for people who are showing the symptoms, or if you are an immediate, in contact high risk patient. Am I wrong there, Dr. Velumani? Isn't that the policy?
Actually, that is laid as a policy which is wrong. If 80% of the patients have no symptoms at all, are we not biased to test?
Correct.
And those who are having symptoms, 50% have negative results. So the very fact, don't test if somebody is not symptomatic, is a very wrong premises. It needs to be corrected. I was thinking within weeks or a fortnight it will be corrected. Until today it is not corrected. Let me tell you, very simple. Today ICMR website has a data on how fast labs are reporting. So the fastest labs can be given more work, number one. Number two, if government wants to put a filter on whom to be tested, they only should collect it. How a laboratory sitting a receptionist will know what is symptom and how to decide to collect or not. So there are a lot of problems that need to be understood. But let me very categorically tell you, the quality of PCR testing today is 98 to 99% reliable technically.
Okay, see, Mr. Khurana, that's the point. It's a nationwide policy. There are doubts and questions about the policy, but it's not up to one state government.
It's not about one to state
Tanvi.
government. I'm talking about why they have shut down. I mean, if the test has not been done on these kind of labs, and so the data will come down. Today, we are sitting on 25,000 odd people for the COVID patients in Delhi. And if test is not done, how the patient?
Okay, let me ask that question to Ajay Kumar. Ajay Kumar, why have you shut down these testing labs? What was the issue?
My only allegation.
First question. Tanvi, the first question is.
Ajay Kumar, please. Ajay Kumar, yes.
Yeah. Tanvi, the first question is very simple. Is that Mr. Khurana wants to show some paper on TV screen and then not to know that it's the law, it's the rule which the government of India has framed. But that's the Bharatiya Janata Party style, to continuously show some paper on TV and it's applicable across. Now, a second allegation is that we have closed certain labs. We have not only closed certain labs for misdemeanors, we have also issued notices to hospitals who are not taking patients. So the government is closing labs not because we want to reduce testing. I mean, which world are we? We are reducing labs if they have been found to do something wrong. We are going to shut down hospitals if they are not accepting COVID patients. So those are the basic facts on the ground. Secondly, Delhi is doing the maximum testing. How is it that I have my political colleague, Mr. Khurana on the other side, telling me, I mean, look at the number of tests, why doesn't he speak on the states in which the BJP is there and how much they're testing per 100,000 population? And now he's telling we are not testing. If we are testing the maximum in India, at least have this courtesy to say you need to test more. I can accept that. And also have the courtesy to say that hum testing kar rahe Karnataka mein, I'm not testing in Madhya Pradesh as many, I'm not testing in my where BJP run states are there. Madhya Pradesh mein bahut kharab, it's very bad. It's very bad in Karnataka in terms of Delhi comparison. Have the courtesy to say that. Bihar is very bad, where they have a government along with it. UP means not as much as the Delhi government. We are testing the maximum. Now, we will take action. We are closing the... How can you even imagine? We want more labs to come up. We want to accredit more labs to do more testing. We are absolutely okay with it. But we will not let the labs do misdemeanor. And also hospitals who won't accept patients. So this is the whole issue. And most important...
So I didn't understand. What was the reason? Where did these labs fail?
Number of testing they are doing in Madhya Pradesh. Then you can say that, look, you guys are not good enough, but we are very bad.
Tanvi, I want to rebut on this. Tanvi,
I mean, you guys are absolutely at the bottom of testing, and then you're making stories. I may be bad, but what about you?
Tanvi,
You're saying you're bad. You're not doing it in Madhya Pradesh. You're not doing it in Uttar Pradesh. You're not doing it in your testing numbers. You compare our numbers with yours. फिर बोलिएगा कि हम खराब कर रहे हैं.
Tanvi,
yes, Mr.
Tanvi,
okay. Mr. Khurana wants to respond to that, and I go back to experts after that. Yes.
Tanvi, he said we are issuing the notices to the people. Today in the morning, a girl by the name of Amanpreet, her father died because LNJP, the government hospital, is not ready to take her COVID patient, and she died. He died.
Khurana Sahab, one second, answer that. Khurana Sahab, I'll answer that question. I'll answer that question because it's an important issue. No, let me answer it.
Okay, let him finish, please. Harish Khurana, finish your point. Yes. Ajay Kumar, let him finish, please. Just one person at a time, please. It's too difficult to understand anybody if you both yell at each other. Let me understand one side at a time. Yes, Harish Khurana.
Secondly, this is a normal course now. When we ask question about Delhi government issue, they immediately divert the issue to Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat. अरे Delhi की जनता ने आप लोगों को चुन के भेजा है भाई. You are answerable to Delhi people. They talk about Delhi, what Delhi is doing. LNJP, which is government-owned hospital, is not ready to take the patient now. Don't laugh. Patient has died, and you're laughing. Shame on you.
I'll answer your question.
Shame on you.
I'll answer your question.
You're laughing on this.
Relax.
A girl has gone to her father, and you're laughing.
Can I answer your question?
Okay, calm down, Mr. Khurana, calm down. Let Ajay Kumar explain. Let Ajay Kumar explain. Yes.
As usual, BJP's got late information, always dealing in lies. The LNGAP hospital has given a record official reply saying that the patient was checked into emergency at 7:03. And Mr. Khurana and the BJP will continuously lie. There is a letter by the LNJP officially with the registration of the patient at 7:03. The problem is you will believe on tweet because your whole party is on tweet. Twitter में पूरा राजनीति चलती है, WhatsApp में राजनीति चलती है. There is a record and the LNJP director has written a letter that the patient was registered at 7:03.
After 24 hours.
BJP तो Twitter वाली party है. It's a party on Twitter.
Okay.
On WhatsApp and lies.
Okay. Let's stick to the larger issue, gentlemen. Let's stick to the larger issue. Calm down, both of you. Look, here is the point, and this is why we're talking about it. This is why we keep picking up stories from Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai. These are the cities with a high number of cases, which is why policy making, policy implementation, healthcare infrastructure is very, very important. It cannot be lost in this battle of politics. Is just the point that we are making. Now, if there is a problem with tests and test results, and there is a possibility that scientifically there are many reasons for variation in test results, I would urge both the central government and the state government, both the BJP as well as the Aam Aadmi Party, to try and understand that before we actually just make this a political war and start issuing directions without understanding what's going on. So let me go back to our experts, and let me go back to Dr. Mishra and ask Dr. Rakesh Mishra this question. As the number of cases rise, the demand for testing rises, Dr. Mishra, is there a need, like Dr. Velumani was saying, for perhaps a clearer, more transparent and credible testing policy?
You're right. Yeah, I mean, the testing policy can be, in ideal word, test everyone. We know that it's not feasible. There are logistics issue, there are resources issue, there are supply issues, and we have to deal with many things. And then you need people, resources, and so on. So there are lots of aspects in that. Technology has its limitation. It has done fabulous. We have figured out many things, and there are many positives that have been taken from this testing. Better policies could be made, better arrangements could be made. So there are several aspects where we can do better. One is use the resources that are available as much as possible. Who should be tested, who should not be tested? We have to leave this to the system because they know all aspects. We know only one, our surroundings, our emotional aspects. They know everything. I mean, most of the things they have intelligence information where the infection may be spreading, where it may not be, and so on. There are many aspects. So I would leave that on the system to decide if there is any priority, who they should be testing. And there, of course, there are medical reasons that should be taken into account. There is also scope for technology to improve. There are lots of efforts going on where you can test 20,000 in a go, 50,000 in a go. And I think in coming weeks, we will see some of those technologies coming. But till that happens, then we have to use as much as possible for the testing. I'm not in the capacity to tell what is the most transparent policy. Whatever the policy is written and made to public is transparent if it is practiced in an honest way. So I think all we have to do is to use our resources to the maximum possible. There are places where testing centers are there, they are not fully utilized. There are possibilities, I think there are even more possibilities in the government labs or other academic institutions who have responsibility under such condition to test. They can be put into service. We can, I think, increase our capacity of current testing many-fold if there is requirement. And of course, if there is supply, the most of the reagents that we use are imported. There is a big problem how to make them in-house, how to be Atmanirbhar on those things. So there are lots of activities happening in that. But we need to actually work from multiple angles. We cannot just blame each other and say the test is right or test is wrong or who was tested, who was not. As I mentioned, you test differently, you might find some differences. Having said that, actually, you should not see a false positive because that means your test is actually not working. It is giving absurd results. You may give false negative, which means the person is positive, but you are missing out because of the sensitivity that the test has not worked. Our test has failed to detect to the sensitivity. But giving false positive means the test has not only worked, test has given
Yes.
you wrong results. So that is one thing, and I hope in these cases what we are talking about, there are not many false positive because that means the test there may be even entry problem or a naming problem or decoding of the sample problem. So those having taken care, I think we need improvement in
Okay.
technology. There are scope that we can increase our testing and the system should use to the best of its available resources.
Okay, very quickly, Dr. Velumani, one question that I wanted to ask you again on the same issue is the problem of delay in test results in many cases is taking 2 days and 3 days and 4 days. Does that, also hamper the result? Could there be a possibility that then when you finally get the result 4 days later, it may not show you the true picture?
Tanvi, I want to tell you there are many laboratories who are reporting within 18 hours both sample collection and reporting. Today, it is transparently available in ICMR website. They can see which is the fastest reporting laboratory, and they can always give to the fastest reporting laboratory more business. And without getting the results of the already given swabs, why do you give more business to a small or a low capacity or a low efficient laboratory? So if you ask me, ICMR has data around turnaround time. Number two, quality is something only ICMR or NIV only should tell it is right or it is wrong. Not every ward medical doctor, every municipal commissioner, every state government. I am surprised to see so far all so-called notices were only between private labs and government labs. Today in Delhi, it is two different governments, two different philosophies. They are fighting. So it is not supposed to be decided by anyone other than ICMR or NIV. Quality will be in place, speed will be in place. Whom to test? that you take a call, because government can always take it as a call to manage the epidemic.
Okay, all right. Completely out of time. Thank you so much to both of our experts for joining us and really explaining to us the intricacies and various aspects of it. And, I would just urge the political parties to understand what the experts are saying. Yes, there is an issue if the testing results are coming late. So it is right for the government to raise that issue, saying you can't be giving the test results 48 hours, 72 hours later in any hospital. And that needs to be fixed. There are options available where you are getting results sooner. But does that mean that if there is a data discrepancy within 4 days of testing, that necessarily is a modified intention? No. If there is a discrepancy, that must be investigated, but that doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is intentionally suppressing the data or intentionally inflating the data. Viewers, as the crisis becomes more difficult, as the number of cases become larger to tackle, we have to keep in mind that the policies remain clear and are implemented efficiently. Only then will we be able to handle the COVID crisis. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. Time for a quick break. On the other side, we'll put the focus on the cruelty being meted out to wildlife animals. What are the possible solutions? Do we need a policy change? Stay with me. Welcome back. Viewers, last night Mirror Now picked up the issue of the brutal murder of a pregnant elephant who had a pineapple that was covered and laden with explosives, and those explosives then exploded in her mouth, killing her and her 2-month-old fetus. Today it's become a big story. Everybody from the state to the center has responded, has assured action. Now, honestly, I don't want to get into the politics. I don't want to get into a blame game of whose responsibility is it and who shall actually take any action. I don't even know what this assurance for an action really means. How are they really going to find the person who put the pineapple there? And I say this because many of you may not know. This is a prevalent practice, a widespread practice in Kerala and some other parts of our country as well, where locals, farmers who are fed up of wildlife animals coming into their farmland, into their land, they use this tactic. They use a bait bomb to kill these wild animals. It's in Kerala, it's widely used for the boar, wild boar. In fact, that's what the forest official even told us last evening. Now, what is a bait bomb? It's exactly what happened to this elephant. That pineapple that had explosives in it. Usually what the locals do, the farmers do, they take a fruit, either insert the explosives, firecrackers in it, or they take jaggery and join it with some explosives, and then they just spread it around on the outskirts so that when the wild boar comes and eats it, it explodes in the animal's mouth, killing that animal. And it's brutal. It shouldn't be done to any animal. Unfortunately, not always is it just that one animal who eats it. Anyone, any wildlife that emerges from the forest and gets into the villages could end up eating it, just like in this case, just like it often happens. Now, how do we fix this problem? How do we stop this? It's unfair to a certain extent to start blaming the people who are simply protecting their land, their own lives maybe. The onus, I believe, viewers, lies on the state, on the forest department, on the central government for implementation and designing and implementation of a policy to solve this problem. If it's left to the locals, they are going to protect what they can, and it's known to everybody that this is happening. Then why give us false assurances when one incident triggers an outrage by saying, oh, we're going to do something about it? That's the big issue. Let's say good evening to those who are joining us. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, National Spokesperson of the BJP, A.N. Shamsheer, MLA in Kerala, Akash Kumar Verma, and IFS official who's joining us this evening, and Anand Shinde, founder for President of trunk called the Wildlife Foundation. He's basically an elephant researcher who's joining us this evening. Anand Shinde, let's just begin with you, because in order to make a point about an effective and correct policy, we have to first understand the brutality of what's happening. The brutality of what happened to this elephant and often happens to many other wild animals.
Whatever happened right now is unacceptable. That is, I can definitely tell you. They are using such kind of bombs for fishing also. They are using such kind of bombs for wild boar also. But we have to think in the way that Dr. Daphne Sheldrick, she told us in a study that every 15 minutes there is a death of one elephant. And by this speed, we are losing them very fast. And we can't afford losing them in such way, because elephant is known as an architect and engineer of the nature.
Yes, no, absolutely, you're right. But what are the various reasons that are leading to such deaths? Of course, what has happened in this case and happened in the past in Kerala is one of those examples of how they are being killed.
Yeah, the main reason is a human-elephant conflict, which not supposed to be there. Elephant have those corridors. We can't claim each and every piece of land. They are equally a living beings of the earth. Rather, they might be more older than the human beings, and they are more close to the nature. If they will survive, then only we will survive.
Okay, absolutely. You're absolutely right there. Mr. Shamsher, good evening to you. Mr. Shamsher, the Chief Minister has promised us action in this case. Now, what does this mean? How are we going to find that one person who put the pineapple with explosives there?
Madam, first I want to clarify some points that had made by you. That you had mentioned in your anchoring that it was a everyday occurrence in Kerala. It is a rarest of rare case. Don't create unnecessary features about Kerala to the entire nation. Kerala is respecting animals. Once upon a time.
No, Mr. Shamsher, you've not understood. Mr. Shamsher, let me clarify. You did not understand what I said. I said the practice of using fruits with explosives to kill wild boar is prevalent in Kerala, which is something that your own forest official, the chief wildlife warden who was present on our show last night, has said. It has happened to an elephant now, but these fruits and this method is used to kill other animals. That's what I said. I'm not saying Kerala does this to elephants every day. So I'm just clarifying that to you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Look, in Kerala, man-animal conflict are rare here. Sometimes man and animal conflict takes place. What happened for the last 4 years, I can say. People have been killed by elephants. But unfortunately, you didn't discuss this topic in the national media. But now you are coming in the national media that in Kerala, the elephants is being killed. What is our culture in Kerala? In a lot of houses, we are using elephants in the temple festivals. Some people keeping them at home as a status of symbol like BMW or Mercedes. You come to Kerala, we can show how many people are keeping elephants in their own home. You can see what happens in Kerala. It was very unfortunate. We are not ready to justify that incident. Chief Minister has already declared a high-level investigation. High-level investigation is going on. And also, there was a preliminary postmortem examination has been conducted by Manarkad Forest Division. In that Manarkad Forest Division's preliminary postmortem investigation, it is clear that it was being dead by the inhalation of water leading to the lung failure. Look, what are the things had done by the Forest Department? They had sent a kungi elephant to come the elephant from the pond, but they didn't come. So it was very unfortunate. High-level investigation is going on, but anyhow, it is deliberately creating a panic here and also deliberately creating a communal color to this incident. Why so? Look, we are waging our war against.
So, Mr. Shamsher, Mr. Shamsheer, look, you are highly mistaken, Mr. Shamsheer. This is not one of those channels that is out to malign anybody unnecessarily, that doesn't check its facts before it puts up a conversation or gives a communal color where none is needed. We have presented the facts. You are absolutely right. This is what has been reported. This is what has been discussed last night here on Mirror Now. Before everybody started outraging about it, we gave the facts. We spoke with your wildlife official. He also told our viewers this, how the efforts were made to save that elephant. Yes, that has been discussed. That's not what I'm asking you. I am asking you, Mr. Shamsheer, like you said, there is a man versus wild issue. In Kerala, you have to figure out a way to coexist. Now, like Anand Shinde said, maybe elephant corridors, a proper policy and implementation is required there. What is the Kerala government to do in that aspect? Let's talk generic. I don't want to get into a political blame game here, Mr. Shamsheer.
No, I am not ready for a political blame game. But unfortunately, of how central ministers and some of the central leaders are making unnecessary statements. That's why I have made out that point. But very frankly here, look what happens in Kerala at the time of lockdown. Our Honorable Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, we are proud of him. He told to the people, give food to the animals, give food to the dogs, give food to the animals, give water to the animals. That is our state. We are very proud that living in Kerala. But unfortunate incidents has occurred in Kerala. That's our government has declared, openly declared an investigation. Let us wait for the investigation report comes. What happened? If there are any fault from the side, they will be booked. Look, there is no proper investigation report has come place till now. We are waiting for the investigation report. In the evening at the press meet, CM has made very clearly that we will make a high-level investigation with the forest department along with the police. They will investigate, and if there are any faults in that, if there anybody has committed mistakes, government will take serious action against them. And we are ready.
Well,
Hello?
let me tell this to our panelists, political representatives who may not know this or want to acknowledge it. But the truth is, in our country, unfortunately, such instances do happen. Now, when I say that, I don't mean somebody intentionally goes and feeds a pineapple with explosives to a pregnant elephant. But such methods are used to ward off wild animals, to protect farmland, to protect villages. In fact, Akash Kumar Verma, an IFS official with us right now, and Mr. Verma has shared with us several such instances and details that he has even put on social media. Mr. Verma, the idea of a conversation tonight is to say, unfortunately, sometimes it's a hyena, sometimes it's another animal that becomes a victim of this. How do we ensure it doesn't happen?
Well, first of all, we have to agree to the fact that there is a conflict between the elephants and other wildlife with farmers. Farmers have their own interest in protecting their agricultural produces, and they find these crop raiding incidents as harmful for their activities. So they often resort to certain actions which may not be very appreciable and, in fact, are of criminal bent of mind. And under such circumstances, it often happens go a bit beyond what is required to be done, and unfortunately, these things end up in some kind of event which is not at all pleasable. So, for the point of view, it is necessary for them to have a security of their farm produce. But at the same time, the measures that they should put in place, they shouldn't be of such a nature that they harm any animal, whether it be wildlife or any other domestic or other animal. Mostly these incidents, they are noticed in areas which are near the fringes of forests. And generally, it is so that they have the farmers, they have their farms protected by various measures. Mostly it is by some fencing. And often it is a wire fencing, which is just like a chain network thing, and often animals happen to get injured by that. In addition, they also make some various other methods. So traditionally there were methods like the boma things in the other countries and normal hedges in our own country. There are various instances of eco-friendly measures by which the farmers can have a protection of their crops. In addition, not only the farmers, there are various other places which are directly into the conflict zone where animals and wildlife, other wildlife, they venture into the human habitation. And from a protection point of view, people resort to various kinds of devices. Mostly they are either solar fencings, which are appreciable and they are not at all dangerous to the extent that they can kill any animal. But here and there you've come across some incidents which are unpalatable, which you just cannot agree upon and are completely of a criminal nature. So there are instances which wherein such incidents have happened. There is no denying this fact. But then one shouldn't extrapolate these things to such an extent as if to project that this is something of a very, very common practice. Yes, some people do, and mostly these are done by people who do not really understand the implications of these impacts, and they are basically solely interested. And you must be aware that there are laws in place. There are laws in place which make sure that no such incidents are taken over by people, no such practices are done, no inhuman kind of methods are employed, and there are various machineries which ensure that these things don't happen. In fact, the honorable courts from time to time have also issued orders. For instance, they have issued orders regarding prevention, or rather, not at all carrying out electrification of their agricultural fields or electric lining of their agricultural fields or any other places where the animals, wild animals, they happen to come across. And recently, the honorable courts have also mentioned various other mechanisms by which various practices which were being carried out by people, and they have denied them. They have not agreed with them. So there have been various arrangements. There have been various monitoring mechanisms. There are various checks and balances on this. But some sporadic incidents, they happen, and these are the incidents which really put us feel very shameful of the acts that the humankind is doing against these animals.
Yes, in fact, because the details that you shared with us, I just want to tell our viewers also as we play out those visuals, because these are instances that have happened. I will take Mr. Verma's word when he says it's not so widely prevalent, but there are instances that do happen. For example, in January 2020 in Haridwar in Uttarakhand, a hyena ate one of these bait bombs, and just like in this case, in that case as well, the jaw was broken, the hyena suffered severe burn injuries and was in that state for 3 days. Viewers, if you don't know, this elephant was in that state of pain for 7 days before it finally died. The hyena was in that state for 3 days. Imagine the pain, and then finally succumbed to those burn injuries. Similarly, it happened in August 2019 where a leopard in Chakrata, again in Uttarakhand, where Mr. Verma ate poisoned cattle carcass. Somebody put out cattle carcass for the animal, but obviously poisoned it before putting it there. The leopard was actually in shock for days together. Now, while attempts were made to help the leopard and treat the leopard by the forest officials, and I'm sure it was painful for them as well, unfortunately they could not help save that leopard. These instances shouldn't be happening, and the way to do that is to ensure that while yes, there is a law, there is a punishment, and we punish those who resort to such brutality, we also ensure that such cases don't arise. We also ensure that the clash between man and the wild is reduced, that we find other ways of safeguarding our animals so that people who are protecting their own fields don't instead kill these animals. And Mr. Gopal Agarwal, that's where the centre's role comes into play. Now, if I had to ask you, has there been one single policy in this direction in the last few years? Would you have an answer for me?
Tanvi, the issue is that this is not a thing only to be condemnable. It's a criminality involved. I think this kind of criminality against animal cannot be justified. That's one point of thing. But you should, everybody has to look into it as an act of criminal activities, because ultimately somebody has put up a cracker in the mouth of inside the that pineapple, and that has been given. So this has to be investigated. Ultimately, what I think is the state government has to take this action. How a center is involved in that? That law is definitely center has to make. So there are laws. Your own report also will tell various things that there are laws where these kind of activities are completely classified into criminal act, and ultimately they have to punish. These people who indulge in these things have to be punished. Unless that is done, this human animal conflict is there everywhere. Where there is an increase in population, animals are also intruding into the human habitat. Human habitat are finding problems with various other things. But this environmental issue is a
Yeah, but we
complex issue.
are creating more highways. We are creating more highways from inside the forest, creating more roads inside the forest. And then you are saying we should punish the people for safeguarding their lives or their farmland. There has to be a better way to do this, Mr. Gopal Agarwal. Just coming out and saying, no, we will find these people and we will ensure they are arrested is not going to be enough. I understand you say there is criminality involved. But how do you resolve the larger problem?
No, but the developmental issue is also to be considered. You cannot just stop development because these habitats are being disturbed. What has to be looked into is that alternative via media has to be found out if there is possible. The cost of environment and the human animal life is also an important factor in any project evaluation. Social impact assessment, all these are required, but ultimately this kind of activity will only stop when there is a criminal act taken. These things are taken as a criminal activity and strong action is taken. Otherwise, the self-interest of those communities is coming in conflict with the animals. Wherever there are wildlife habitats, there definitely this kind of conflict is coming out, and the state government are more responsible. I'm not saying the center should not do anything, but ultimately in our federal structure, state governments have to be more proactive and vigilant on these issues, because in particularly Kerala itself, we see that elephants are being imported from Assam and other places illegally. So the issue is you cannot protect an animal in Noida. You have to protect animal in Kerala where its habitat is. So if an elephant is having a problem, that is this is the third case I understand, and if this is the third case and it's a human act which has a brutal connotation with it, because it is done through a known fact. It is not that unknowingly somebody has done this or some accident has happened. It's a well-known planned activity that has been done. So these kind of activity have to be checked in this particular incident. If you do not look into an individual incident alone, and if you do not pinpoint to the government, then you cannot say if it is happened in Kerala, why you are pointing out only Kerala? This incident has happened in Kerala. This is a criminal activity which is defined as a criminal
Mr.
activity.
Gopal Agarwal,
So
my question was to you was not that at all. My question to you was, what has the central government done in coming out with better policies? You don't have an answer for that. That's the whole point. You want to sit and play politics here and just talk about the Kerala government. Of course, we have to ask the questions to the Kerala government. I did that yesterday. I have done that today as well. But where is the central government policy? I have given you two examples just now of Uttarakhand. Why have you not gone after Uttarakhand? Or your heart only bleeds for an elephant and doesn't bleed for a leopard or a hyena? Just because this case has gotten attention, why don't we use this opportunity to admit that we need better policies?
No, you want to say that if it happened in Uttarakhand, therefore Kerala is...
We are raising down forest after forest for our own development without keeping in mind what's going to happen to the wildlife. Then obviously this is going to happen. And then we are going to again just blame people for it. Where is the policy? No. That's the whole point. Mr. Shamsheer, please respond to this. You say your government is cognizant of the balance between man and the wild and the balance between conserving your forests and wildlife as well as development. Please tell us, how will you resolve this problem?
Yeah, as well as Kerala is concerned, we had spent crores of rupees for the protection of wildlife.
We look as per in the case of animal attack, means case of elephant attack, we had made a strong electric fencing and also concrete fencing. We had made in the forest area. We need to protect animals and also we need to protect the life of common man, the farmers. In some of the area, the elephants and boars are coming and attacking the farm products, and they are destroying the farmers. So that's why some has kept it. Was, as far as I am concerned, it is not a deliberate act. It was not an international act. It so happened, unfortunate incident. For the Kerala is concerned, Kerala government has taken strict measures, and openly our CM in the press meet has told into the media that government has given a joint inspection, police and also the forest authority. That both team will investigate what happens in that case, and also forest has taken a risk. Forest has tried a lot.
Okay, all right, Mr. Shamsher, I'm sorry, I'm out of time, but I am going to say this. Your own chief wildlife warden who was on the show yesterday said that a similar instance happened earlier just before he took over. And we know that no action was taken in that case. We hope that, this case becomes a learning, and we ensure that the steps that are taken by the state, by the center, by the forest department, whoever needs to do it, ensures that it doesn't happen again. I'm going to especially thank Mr. Shinde and Akash Kumar Verma for joining us as our experts to help us understand what goes on and how it happens. Viewers, the fact of the matter isn't that all of us come together and outrage about one incident and say, oh, arrest that one person. Try finding that one person who put that pineapple there amongst an entire village who's simply trying to protect their farmland. This should be used as a learning and as a heartbreaking, brutal story that forces us to come out with better policies, that forces us to come up with discussions and then design our laws, our development plan, our conservation plan to ensure that wildlife is protected and people don't have to resort to these kind of inhuman ways of killing any animal, whether it's a hyena, leopard, a wild boar or an elephant. Thank you for joining us.